In the annals of American history, few events are as pivotal as the showdown between native Indians and European settlers. This conflict, rooted in the early 17th century, marked a significant turning point that shaped the future of the continent. As European powers began to establish colonies, they encountered diverse indigenous cultures, each with its own rich traditions and ways of life. The arrival of settlers brought not only new opportunities, but also profound challenges, as land disputes, resource competition, and cultural misunderstandings ignited tensions. Understanding this historical context is crucial. The clash was not merely a battle for land. It represented a collision of worldviews, economies, and lifestyles. Native tribes, who had lived in harmony with the land for centuries, faced the encroachment of settlers driven by the promise of prosperity and expansion. This struggle for survival and sovereignty would lead to a series of conflicts that would forever alter the landscape of North America. In this video, we will delve into the complexities of this showdown, exploring the motivations behind both sides and the lasting impact of their interactions. By examining this critical moment in history, we can gain insights into the roots of contemporary issues surrounding indigenous rights and cultural preservation. Join us as we unravel the layers of this fascinating and often misunderstood chapter in our shared past. The arrival of European settlers in the early 1600s marked the beginning of a transformative era for North America. Motivated by the pursuit of wealth, land, and religious freedom, these settlers ventured across the Atlantic, eager to establish new lives in what they perceived as a land of opportunity. The English, French, and Spanish each sought to expand their empires, often overlooking the fact that indigenous peoples had inhabited these lands for thousands of years. Native Indians lived in diverse societies, each with unique customs, languages, and spiritual beliefs. Their deep connection to the land was evident in their sustainable practices, which emphasized harmony with nature. Initially, some tribes welcomed the newcomers, engaging in trade and sharing knowledge about local resources. These early interactions were characterized by curiosity and mutual benefit, as both groups sought to understand one another. However, as more settlers arrived, tensions began to rise. Misunderstandings regarding land ownership and usage quickly escalated. European settlers often viewed land as a commodity to be owned and exploited, while native Indians saw it as a communal resource to be respected and shared. This fundamental difference in worldview led to growing frustrations and conflicts over territory, resources, and cultural practices. As settlers expanded their settlements, the stage was set for a confrontation that would have lasting repercussions for both native peoples and the emerging colonies. As the 17th century progressed, the relationship between native Indians and European settlers became increasingly strained, marked by a series of escalating conflicts. One of the most significant flashpoints was the issue of land disputes. Settlers, driven by the desire for agricultural expansion, began encroaching on territories traditionally held by indigenous tribes. The infamous Pequot War of 1636 to 1638 exemplified this tension, as the Pequot tribe faced violent retaliation from English colonists and their native allies over control of trade routes and land. Key figures emerged on both sides, shaping the course of these conflicts. For the settlers, leaders like John Mason played pivotal roles in military campaigns against native tribes. On the indigenous side, figures such as Metacom, also known as King Philip, became symbols of resistance against colonial encroachment. His efforts to unite various tribes against the settlers culminated in King Philip's War in 1675, a brutal conflict that underscored the desperation of native peoples to defend their lands and way of life. Cultural differences further fueled the conflict. European settlers often viewed land as a commodity to be owned, while native Indians held a spiritual connection to the land, seeing it as a shared resource. This fundamental clash of values not only heightened tensions, but also set the stage for a showdown that would have profound implications for both cultures and the future of North America. The confrontation between native Indians and European settlers unfolded in a landscape that was both beautiful and brutal. Dense forests, rolling hills, and expansive fields served as the backdrop for a clash that would determine the fate of many. The air was thick with tension as the two sides prepared for battle, each aware that the outcome would shape their futures. For the settlers, this was a fight for survival and expansion. For the native Indians, it was a desperate struggle to protect their land, culture, and way of life. Both sides employed distinct strategies during the conflict. The settlers, often organized into militias, relied on their firearms and military tactics learned from European warfare. They sought to establish fortified positions and use their numbers to overwhelm native forces. In contrast, native warriors utilized their intimate knowledge of the terrain, employing guerrilla tactics that allowed them to strike swiftly and retreat into the cover of the woods. This asymmetrical warfare highlighted the ingenuity and resilience of indigenous peoples in the face of overwhelming odds. Emotions ran high on both sides. For the native Indians, the stakes were existential. They fought not just for land, but for their identity and heritage. The settlers, driven by ambition and fear, faced the daunting reality of potential failure in their quest for a new life. As the battle raged on, the cries of warriors and the sounds of gunfire echoed through the landscape, marking a tragic chapter in the history of both cultures. The aftermath of the showdown between native Indians and European settlers left deep scars on indigenous communities and irrevocably altered their way of life. Many native tribes faced devastating losses, both in terms of lives and territory. The conflict disrupted traditional practices, leading to a breakdown of social structures and a loss of cultural identity. Survivors were often forced into unfamiliar territories, struggling to adapt to new environments while grappling with the trauma of displacement and violence. For the settlers, the immediate aftermath brought a sense of victory and expansion. However, their actions laid the groundwork for a fraught relationship with Native Americans that would persist for centuries. The aggressive tactics employed during the conflict fostered a mindset of entitlement and superiority among settlers, leading to further encroachments on indigenous lands. Treaties were frequently broken, and the cycle of mistrust and violence continued, culminating in more conflicts and forced removals in the years to come. Historically, this showdown is significant as it marks a turning point in the narrative of American expansion. It highlights the complexities of cultural interactions and the often overlooked perspectives of Native peoples. Understanding this pivotal moment allows us to reflect on the ongoing struggles for indigenous rights and recognition today, reminding us that the consequences of these early confrontations still resonate in contemporary society. The legacy of this conflict serves as a crucial chapter in the broader story of America, shaping its identity and values. The historical showdown between Native Indians and European settlers offers profound lessons that resonate even today. One of the most critical takeaways is the importance of recognizing and addressing cultural misunderstandings. The clash between these two groups stemmed largely from differing worldviews regarding land, resources, and community. By examining these differences, we can better understand how miscommunication and assumptions can escalate conflicts. Encouraging viewers to think critically about these cultural dynamics can foster empathy and awareness in our interactions with diverse communities. Respecting diverse perspectives is another vital lesson from this event. The narratives of Native peoples have often been marginalized or overlooked in mainstream history. Acknowledging and valuing these perspectives not only honors their experiences, but also enriches our understanding of the past. By listening to and amplifying Indigenous voices, we can work towards a more inclusive dialogue that recognizes the complexities of history. Finally, this historical event serves as a reminder of how the past informs current discussions about land and rights. The struggles faced by Native communities in the wake of the confrontation continue to echo in contemporary debates over land sovereignty, environmental justice, and Indigenous rights. By learning from history, we can engage in more informed and respectful conversations about these critical issues, paving the way for reconciliation and a more equitable future for all. In summary, the showdown between Native Indians and European settlers is a complex and pivotal moment in American history that highlights the profound impact of cultural misunderstandings, land disputes, and differing worldviews. We explored how the arrival of European settlers led to escalating tensions, culminating in violent confrontations that forever altered the lives of Indigenous communities. The aftermath of these events not only shaped future relations between settlers and Native Americans, but also left lasting legacies that continue to influence discussions about land rights and cultural identity today. As we reflect on these key takeaways, we encourage you to engage with this important topic. If you found this video insightful, please consider subscribing to our channel, liking the video, and sharing it with others who might benefit from this knowledge. Your support helps us continue to create content that explores significant historical events and their relevance to our lives today. Additionally, we invite you to explore related content on our channel or website, where you can dive deeper into the stories of indigenous peoples, the impact of colonization, and the ongoing struggles for rights and recognition. Together, we can foster a greater understanding of our shared history and work towards a more inclusive future. Thank you for joining us on this journey, and we look forward to seeing you in our next video.